And we are back again. We just about fucking missed it there. I've never done that before.
You know
It's
what?
like,
I just looked up at my screen and realized it's got the minutes at the top, man. I got to pay attention to that.
well, I'll look up and then it's like less than a minute, and you're like, oh. All right, you were
Oh,
talking
oh
about
crap. Does it? No, yeah, we were talking about Columbia Tools, man.
yeah.
And I had a bearing go out on my 10-inch box and it was starting to wobble. And I got on All Wall and I ordered one and I had a question about something and it was completely irrelevant. So I Googled Columbia Tools and called their customer service and I was talking to this young lady and she couldn't answer my question. She said, "Well, here, hold on, I got someone who can answer it for you." And it was Aaron.
Get the
And at
fuck
the
out of
time I
here.
didn't realize that. Yeah, I didn't realize that, but after learning who he was, over the last 6, 8 months, I'm like, holy cow, this, he's talking to customers on the daily, and he sent me a PDF file of the breakdown of the box, and he's like, dude, if you have any questions, just call me back. We can FaceTime, and I'll walk you through it. And you don't get that with a lot of companies, especially a company
No.
as huge as they are. You know what I mean? They're just super hands-on owners and operators, and when I find a company that's like that, I commit to them. You know, whether or not there's better tools out there, quote unquote better, if you will. I won't stray from that because that one experience led me to commit to that for a reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
And
they're
I
like,
hold brand loyalty like crazy.
I am like loyal to a fault.
Right.
But at least for us up here, it's Canadian made. It's made in
Right.
Canada. Yeah, I think it's fucking ridiculous that Aaron answers the phone to do questions,
Right.
but who else is better to do that? And I think that's the way they look at that, is he's like, I'm the guy that ought to be answering these questions, so he does. And it's there's
No
always
kidding.
that little bit of like hesitation, right? When you meet someone for the first time, or you spend any real time with someone where you're kind of like, I wonder if they're going to be the same. When I met him at CSR, it was like seeing an old friend. Like I don't know how we could like got along so well. And then like 6 months later, we're staying in a hotel room together in Vegas. And there was no weird anything. It was just like
That's awesome, man.
super humble guy. And you've heard the story through Nick's podcast of like where everything came from.
Yep.
He
Yep.
talked about during COVID, like he was sitting at his kitchen table putting angle heads together with his kids. Like, just somebody's got to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really really enjoy them as a brand, as people.
You
you
know,
know
you'd said something that they're out of Canada. What is with Canada and coming out with all this drywall content? It just seems like there's so many manufacturers out of Canada. You look at some of the biggest names on Instagram in the drywall finishing world, they're all from Canada.
yeah, we can like throw a baseball and hit each other.
I'm saying it, at one point I'm like, dude, everyone that finishes drywall like this is from Canada.
Yeah, and it's Nick was the first
Not that
person to
that's a bad thing.
really.
I think that's great.
I did. When he pointed that out, I didn't realize it either. But we kind of are. Um, but
Oh yeah.
somebody also said that like we adapt to change very easily. Like when it came to like running the boxes and they became popular, it seemed like everybody was then doing it. There wasn't this big
Oh
hesitation.
yeah.
Like when Fresco showed up, everybody's doing it now. At least everybody's into doing it now. There isn't a whole lot of like, well, that's stupid. And I don't know if it's a population thing or if it's like, I don't know what it is. Our water's better. I have no idea. Um, yeah, but it's everybody, right? Brian from Drywall Nations from
Oh
up
yeah.
north. Kayla's up north. Like we've got a lot of people, um,
Yeah.
especially in that industry, and I think that's why CSR is doing so well as a community because we're all so close. Um, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. That's freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's the only thing that I can say about people from the States that are doing what you guys are doing, like Josh, phenomenal work, but he just is working. He's too busy working
Yeah.
to do all the rest of this
Yep.
shit. And I don't know. Now I never would have gotten into doing Instagram if it wasn't for Brad because I know him. and I thought that it was cool, and I was like, maybe I could do that. So maybe there's not a lot of people doing it, and that's why, or I don't know. It's yeah, there's no
Yeah.
excuse for it. Get on it.
Yep. You know, another reason I like the drywall trade so much, like I'd said before, I'm still relatively young, and when I was in high school, I went to this thing called CACC, which is the first half of every single day. I would go to some sort of trades group
That's cool.
versus going to high school, and I took automotive technologies mostly because I wanted to get out of school for 4 hours and get stoned on my way to auto tech.
Totally.
Um, yeah, and um, man, I had a point to that. I forgot where I was going with that,
You're
Sean.
like it. Well, the problem is you smoke too much pot on the way to.
You're not kidding. No, it's been many, many years since I've done that.
I
Oh,
love it.
I remember now. There was building technology where you would learn how to
Ah,
frame houses. There was electrical groups, and for some reason, I at the time maybe Fast and the Furious was out, so I chose auto
yeah.
tech. But the reason I love drywall finishing now is it's not considered a sexy trade.
No.
You know, everyone goes into carpentry, framing, finish work, electrical. You don't see a lot of guys running to become plumbers or drywall finishers or
Yeah.
concrete masons because it's to me it's not a quote unquote sexy trade,
Right.
but to me it is.
Same.
To me, yeah, it's the coolest. It's one of the coolest trades there are.
I've like I've made this reference a few times where because this comes up a lot, man, especially on the podcast, where it's like all of the misfit toys go into a big filter, like a big funnel, and at the end of it is construction because they don't
Yep.
know what they're gonna fucking do. And some of them just need a job, and some of them can't get a job everywhere else or whatever. And that is the like quote unquote unattractive part of construction. But the guys that want to be there and the guys that do find it sexy, they're awesome at their job because
Oh
now you're
yeah.
having fun. I want to
Yes.
be here. How good can I make it for me, not for anybody else? And I think that same as what you were saying. That's why I like it. This is
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be like the rough around the edges trade, and we're doing it to perfection. It's like,
Yes.
what do you have to say now? Because this is
Yeah.
flawless.
Right.
Um, yeah, I think so. Um, Now boarding, you know what I mean? Like guys that just put
Mm-hmm.
put board up.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same as a roofer. Now you can go look at a beautiful steel roof or like tile roof. You could find a guy that's
Yep.
good at that too. But when you say roofer,
Yep.
you're looking at a guy with like a straw up his nose and like
Yep. Marble red hanging out of his mouth, showing up. Yep.
exactly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's there is that kind of rough around the edges thought process that comes with it all. But I also think the aunts and the uncles and the neighbors and the cousins that all did construction back in the day, it was just labor. It was just like
Yes.
all they saw was you were coming home exhausted and everybody fucking hated because if you
Yep.
got a guy and I mean back then Pat told me a bunch of stories, man, where they were like you get your ass up there and if you fall you're fired before you hit the ground, like, and they were not
Oh
joking,
yeah.
right? So it
Yep.
was like you were being abused all the time. Nobody likes that shit. But I think there's enough now where those people are starting to die off, um,
Yeah.
or quit or resign or whatever. And it is starting to kind of come back to I'm doing this because I want to do this. And I'm
Yeah.
seeing that a lot more with drywall. Um,
Well,
and I think it's good.
well, there's such a huge generation gap in the trades. And so the people that are in their late 30s, early 40s, heck, even their late 40s, early 50s, they're starting to see the people that are wanting to do this now are wanting to do it because they think of it as a viable option, not as something I have to do to make ends meet. You know what I mean? They're doing it because they want to do it and they can make a damn good living do it and they enjoy it. And that goes a long way with what you do. Like all these side jobs that I do, Monday through Thursday, because I don't, Friday and Saturday, and now Sunday, that's family time. I'm
Mhm.
not doing them because I need to do them. I'm doing it because I enjoy being elite drywall, and I enjoy slinging
Yeah.
mud. And I just want to stay with it. So that way, when that opportunity comes for me to, say, hey man, hey Bill, I'm gonna walk away. I'm gonna go back to running my own thing. Call me when you need me.
Yeah.
I still am sharp.
I was gonna say that exactly I call that sharpening your sword or keeping it
Yeah,
sharp. Where
yeah,
you're not making a bag of money off of it, but when the time comes to make a bag of money off of it, you
right,
still know the trade, right?
right, right.
Um, yeah, yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
And the nice part about that is you could literally go anywhere in the world and do it.
yes.
Well, if they're drywalling, I mean, of course, but
I had an opportunity 5 months ago to go to Southern Florida when the hurricane hit the U.S. and ruined the Gulf
oh,
Coast.
yeah,
There's a company in Springfield, owned by a gal named Terry Nelson, who's 67 years old. She
okay,
started this company when she was in her early 20s, man, and she's been the sole owner ever since, dude. And
sounds pretty badass.
I yeah, she's awesome. When you answer the phone, she's the lady. She's like, "Hello," because she smokes 2 packs of Virginia Slims a day.
That's
But she is
amazing.
just a tough as nails girl, man. She is just a salt of the earth woman, and I love her to death. But she started throwing me jobs, the small stuff, because
Nice.
she does a bunch. She travels all over the central Midwest. She goes to Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Ohio, Iowa, and does these huge ornate cathedral ceilings. She does some awesome work. Her crew does. But
Hmm.
she was like, hey, I need some guys that I can count on that are going to put out quality work, because all these people are rushing to Florida right now doing butcher work,
Yeah.
charging through the roof. We don't want that, but we see an opportunity to go make a lot of really good money. Do you want to go? We're going to go down there for 90 days. And trust me, by the time you come home, you will be happy. And, I'd mentioned it to my wife, and she was like, yeah, fat chance you're leaving me with these 3 kids. You're staying here.
Yeah.
But boy,
Yeah.
I wish I could have gone, because that would have been sweet.
There were stories of people going down there, very professional looking, taking 50% deposits and then just fucking off.
Man, that's just wrong.
It's so wrong, dude. And
And I'm a huge believer in karma,
oh
and
yeah.
you fuck somebody over like that, it's gonna come back to you tenfold. Maybe not immediately, but it's gonna happen. And
Um, so I talk with Wolfgang not quite a bit, but way more than I did before now. And he's very religious. And we've had these conversations the last little while of like, you can't let things bother you and you have to have forgiveness and, like inner peace.
hmm
That's really important to me. At the end of the day, if I can sleep, that's big. That is my focus
oh
when I'm
yeah,
making decisions. It's not financial, it's not, getting ahead of people. It's how am I going to sleep at night if this is the way the day goes? And we had that conversation of, you are not in control of what people do. You're in control of how you react to it. And the universe fucking teaches lessons, man. And if you're a kind person, then you are taught lessons of kindness,
yep,
joy and happiness, things like
oh
that.
for sure,
And if you're a shithead and you're
yeah,
you're not doing nice stuff to people, the universe tends to teach you lessons too, like regret,
oh yeah,
um,
yep,
you know, the, uh, being alone. Like people that do that kind of shit die alone typically
yep,
because if you set every bridge on fire as you walk across it, that you got to swim at some point.
yeah,
Yeah, and it's tough, but it's that believing in karma, it is like 100 for 100 as I've
yep.
lived life, seeing the people that did the things that they did and you didn't understand why. And you go 10 years and you still kind of keep your eye on that person and it doesn't work out very well for a lot of them.
Oh no, dude, I have this motto I live by, and it's called control the controllables. Everything else I don't worry about.
I love
And
that.
it drives my old lady nuts. She stresses about everything 24/7, and I wish she wouldn't. But if I
Mhm.
can't control it right now, I don't care. I don't
Yep.
worry about it. And in regards to karma and being a good person, one of the last jobs I did when I was running my business full time is I took on remodel job for one of my interior designers, and she'd hired me to do a ton of work for her clients, but this was on her personal house.
Oh,
And she was 8 months pregnant. Um, I had her on the schedule. She called me on a Thursday and said, "I need you here tomorrow." I said, "Well, I just can't do it."
yeah,
Excuse me. She said, I don't care what it's going to cost. I need you here." I said, it's not about money.
yeah,
It's about everyone that's ahead of you. So the short of long is I worked that weekend and built a false wall to separate two master bedrooms to make two small bedrooms, one being a nursery, and crush it for her. I mean, I gave it my all. She was happy. Her husband was happy. And then when it came time to their new house, she said, "Hey, we have this small bedroom. Here are the dimensions. Here's the blueprint. What do you think?" We agreed on a price, and then it started to snowball. It was, well, we're going to knock out this wall, and we're going to add this and this and this. And this was an old
yeah,
plaster lath house. And it got to the point where it was like, "Guys, we're done. I'm not going to
yeah.
do this. I don't have the time." And they'd already paid me a deposit. I said, "This is what I'm
Jesus.
going to do. I can walk away right now free and clear, but because I don't like the situation, I'm going to give you half of your deposit back to let you know I'm not doing this because I don't want to. It's because I just
Yeah,
can't anymore. We can't we
yeah,
can't continue this relationship." So I lost money on that. I lost money on that job, but you know what? I slept good at night knowing that I'm not stressing my old lady out working until 10:30 every single night, coming home dead as a dog. So,
yeah.
you know.
Because you have to be present when you're at home.
Oh
You
yeah.
can't you
Oh
can't
yeah.
just your body can't just be there, especially when you have kids, you have a wife, right? Like you have to play your part.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that really needs to be that first realm of everyone's happy and then expand it a little more and then expand it a little more and then your customers are in one of those. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think enough of us do that where
Right.
we go, I don't think so. I had a few get out of control like that where okay, and it's like, listen, and then we'll just in 2 months when I can get back here. And that a lot of
Well,
people don't
if
like that.
if you let that happen, you're just a lapdog to them at that point. If you just keep saying yes and yes and yes, they're just going to
Exactly.
keep taking and taking and taking. But it is what is the hard part is, especially with finishing drywall, is you're at the mercy of the weather. If
Yeah.
it's too humid in that house, your mud's not going to dry. If it's not humid enough, it's going to get delayed shrinkage and everything's going to stuck back, and your work's going to look like shit. And so it's not like you go to work at 7 in the morning and at 4 o'clock you're off. It's like, hey man, I'm gonna go to 7, I'm gonna tape this house, wipe it, and now I gotta find something to do for the next 4 hours before I can get a chance to go back there.
Yeah.
And you're at the mercy of the mud at that point. And that was my biggest thing, was trying to time everything out and fill the day.
Yeah.
I always had enough work. I had more work than I could handle as a one-man show. And I knew some dudes I could call to help me out, but
For
the
sure.
problem is I didn't trust them enough to say, go to this
Yeah.
room and tape it out, because at the end of the day it's my name,
That's
and
right.
I take a ton of pride in my name and my name associated with my business. So I think I just bit off more than I could chew from the get-go as a one-man taper, you know what I mean?
But that's good.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Figure it out
Yep.
first couple years, even
i'm,
first
I'm gonna
year.
I'm gonna come back strong. Yeah, I had less than 2 years before I made the decision with my wife to step away. It was
Yeah.
actually, I'm gonna take that back. It wasn't my decision. It was my wife coming to me one night saying, I don't want you to do this anymore." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Cool, okay, not a
Yeah.
problem. Give me 6 months to find something that fits."
Yeah.
And she
Consider it
did, and
done.
I did, and yep. But I'll be back. Don't you worry. I'll be
Oh
back to
yeah.
doing this full time. I just got to get some ducks in a row on how to run a business.
Yeah. In the mud when he was on, we had like a quick snippet there of like you almost need to get kicked in the nuts a bunch your first year. Like if it's
I
not the
really
work,
liked that episode.
yeah, he's great, man.
I really liked that episode.
Yeah, he's an interesting dude. And then we talked about him
Yeah.
getting renting tools from Ames, and then like fucking 3 days later, he fucking tagged me in a post. He's got all of them on his kitchen
Mm-hmm.
table, and that audio file of how much was it? And he's like, it was free. It's him like,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's he's a really cool guy. That's one of the my favorite things that's happening about the podcast is it, like we're just sitting here shooting the shit, but you really get to know people. It's
Oh
not like
yeah,
everything written down in an interview. You are just kind of talking. But there's a lot of people
right.
that I just never would have crossed paths with. Um,
Oh, for
like
sure.
Brittany Farrow's in her early 20s, owns a framing company. That one comes out, I think, next week. And like there's no part on the planet that I ever would have had a 2 hour conversation with that person. It just wouldn't have made sense. Same with the Gilbert taping girls, same thing. It's you've got brand new young tapers, women in the trades.
Yep.
You just where the hell would you have ever crossed paths with someone like that? Like you
Oh,
guys are
for
down in
sure.
the States. I don't go to the States. So, there's a difference kind of when you're, messaging back and forth or whatever, but the long form discussions, and that's great. That's why, like when we started today, I try not to talk very much until we're recording, because if anybody's interested in you, they should hear all of that beginning
Right,
conversation. How are you? Where'd you come from? What are you working on? That kind of stuff, because I think that's the fun stuff.
right.
Um, yeah, lots of cool people on here, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. The community at large is such a dope community, and I've listened to all of Nick's podcasts. I
Yeah.
I listen to I've listened to every single one. Well, I take that back. I got one more, but like on Friday mornings, man, when I hop in my truck,
Yeah.
I take my girls to school in the morning. My wife picks them up, but the second those girls get dropped off, I know the drywall podcast is getting popped,
Yeah.
and I listen to it till it's done. Yours, I don't know your schedule and how you drop them, but it's like every other
Sundays.
day.
Yeah.
I'm like scrolling. I'm like, oh man, I know he's got one coming out. He put a teaser out there. Where's it at?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll usually put a teaser out like tonight. I'll make like a little clip or whatever. It really depends. I'm like 10 ahead now.
Yeah,
Which
I know you got a bunch of them.
it's
Well,
kind of
because
back.
you you put a teaser out there when you and Fozzie did his backsplash. Because I watched that whole live.
That
Like
was
I
dope.
was taping a basement. Yeah, that was super dope. I was taping a basement with one AirPod in because I never have both in just because I like to hear what's around me.
Totally.
And I wasn't even watching you guys, but just listening, I have I can picture what's going on. And
Yeah.
then you said, "All right, man, we're recording this for a podcast, or we're going to report a podcast after this." I'm like, "God damn, it's been like 3 weeks. When's this podcast going to drop? I want to hear
Oh
about
yeah.
that one."
Yeah. I mean, so Cam's and Josh's that we just dropped yesterday, we did that early February. That's how many we're
Oh no
ahead.
shit.
Yeah.
That's all. Well, good for you, man.
Well, yes and no, because like, you're listening to that podcast and we're talking about like Vegas, like it's going to be next year. It was fucking a month and a half ago.
Oh
and
yeah.
like when, we're talking about Nick coming up for the fresco teach out and things like that, but I kind of like that too, right? Because it doesn't matter. You and I are having this conversation right now, and that's what's important.
Right.
But in 3 or 4 months from now, when it comes out, not only does everybody else get to hear it then, but you and I get to hear it again then. And
Oh, for sure.
you kind
Yeah.
of forget about the specifics. So it is kind of nice where you end up being the viewer, I guess.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When I started this out, I was going to go every other week, every other
Really.
Sunday. Yeah. And I was going to do like personal ones, like just mine. And I did that the first month. I had one of mine out, two like guested podcasts, and then the third or the fourth one was the Columbia podcast for the tool of the month.
Yeah.
Um, but now like I could put out two a week and we'd still be good. Like
Dude, that's a ton of work though.
it's not for me. So I click record on here, you and I talk, and then when I click stop, that's the podcast. I don't edit it. I don't do anything.
Well,
It's our conversation.
I know you put yours out, straight up whatever is on the air is on the air, but
Yeah.
just to take the time to spend an hour and a half to 2 hours talking with somebody or to
Oh
carve that in your
yeah.
schedule, that's a shit ton of work, dude.
Yeah, time for sure. But you see it like that. I see it like when I talk to Nick, he puts like a week into his. Like
Right.
he's putting a lot of time because he edits it and he goes through. And so when you and I are done here, I will um either listen to it tonight or sometime this week, and I'll go through and get the timestamps for, like, like things that are relevant or good clips. And I've got
Oh, for sure.
I've got a big notepad, and then I'll probably listen to it again the night before it comes out. So let's say this is 2 hours. I'm kind of devoting 6 hours to it before I make any clips or any posts. Or yeah, so I guess it is a lot of time. But when I look at like how much work is it, it's not. I just sit here and talk. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, fucking time. If I quadrupled myself, I could stay busy.
Yeah. I need more time and I need more hours, man, because I don't have either of those things. Because
Hmm.
I coach my son's I coach my son's baseball league, and I'm trying to stay busy doing drywall work on the side while running my day job, which I do a surprising amount of drywall work for the guy I work for right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, man, holy shit, I need more hours in a day. I need way
Yeah.
more time. I was stressing about getting on with you because I knew I had to skim that ceiling out today so I could get ready for paint tomorrow. And it's like,
Yeah.
and thank God we got done early because I was expecting to walk in the door at 6 o'clock and then hop right on the computer. I mean, I was able to shower and see the kids for a minute and then say, all right, everyone in the living room, leave me alone.
Well, and I always try and make it very clear to everyone too. Like, this is just a fuck around podcast. This is not like, if you need another hour or tomorrow or next week or what like that, I don't care. It's as long as we get
Right.
people on and we're talking to them, it's good. Um, so that's like what we did with Kayla this week. I when I'm booking people now, I'm just putting them in a week, and then I'll have somebody else that is flexible to go in with that week of like I can kind of do any
Right.
night. So then I'll put those two people together. And so, whoever's going to be the difficult person to not to say difficult, but just, to find the time, and then
Right.
somebody that's flexible. Now you got two a week, easy peasy, doesn't matter what day it is. It's at the beginning, like I had a little
I'll,
go ahead.
I said, I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to her podcast
Me
because
too.
I follow her on Instagram and I have for years. The way she tapes is really intriguing to me because she's not like, okay, I'm gonna get my boards, it's all pre-filled and set. I'm gonna get my bazooka out and run. So she switches it up from using a taper to boxes to doing things by hand to using a tube on a ton of stuff. And I love that. Her content's really cool because it's not just run the bazooka boxes, super
Yeah.
clean straight lines everywhere. She does a ton of handwork on really big ceilings, and I really like the way she tapes. It's just really interesting to me because she switches it up so much.
Well, and she's fucking killing it. Like
Dude,
that's
she
the other part of
crushes
it.
it.
Yeah, we
Because
talked
isn't it like her and her boyfriend or her husband? It's just like two of them.
no, so
It,
that's the fucking joke of it all is he is the boarder. So
really?
they're two separate entities. I don't know if he boards by himself, but that's the joke
Right.
of it all is, and I for some reason I want to say that now. I'm sorry, Kayla, because I know I'm fucking butchering this, but I feel like he is something to do with the drywall inspector or something too. But it's so
Oh, right on.
yeah, he is drywalling everything, and then she comes in to tape it. So like, can you imagine being in shit with your wife anyways, let
Oh,
alone
fuck,
every
man.
time you leave a fucking screw out? Like I imagine he's very good at taping or
Oh, no kidding.
at
Yeah, holy
boarding.
shit.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Some of these projects are enormous, and it sounds to
Yeah,
me
she's
like
putting
she's
out
just in there
huge
killing it.
footage.
Yeah.
Huge footage. Yeah, dude.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
talked
And her
numbers.
content's super dope.
That's the other part of it, and it's consistent. And it's like when I added
Yes.
her to TikTok, it was like nobody else was on because it was just like one after another, and it just seems so excessive. But it's only because I go on there maybe once or twice a week. I bet you she's posting once a day, and it's all different and it's all impressive. Like it's yeah,
Hmm.
man, it's a little bit shocking. Um, yeah, when you wrap your head around what she's doing, like she just got in with Certainteed. That's enormous. Um,
Huge.
yeah,
Huge.
some of the brands that want to be working with her, and why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
That is one of those stories of like the female. unfortunately. But you know, where, you know, she would have grown up in that, you're a woman, you ought not be doing that. Meg's Drywall has a great story like that.
Yep.
But
Yep.
uh especially with Kayla, it's just like, you know, fuck you,
Yep.
watch this.
Yeah.
And
Fuck you. Watch this and learn something. Yeah.
yeah, just about
It.
all of my favorite movies are like that. So
Yeah.
that yeah. And there's all of them there. Like, you know, Leah's another one from kind of the beginning. The shorty was in kind of the beginning. Like, I
Oh
think
yeah.
of as many as there's, sorry, as much as there is like 4 or 5 guys that were kind of the goats, there were also 4 or 5 girls that have been around that long too. Like
Oh, you got
that
Leah,
plaster
the
girl.
plastering girl. Yeah, she's
Yeah.
from I think Australia, and she does
Yeah.
most of her work is semi-automatic taping too, and
Mhm.
they're absolutely crushing it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Tubes.
Yeah.
Just kill it.
Yep. Yep. And their
That's really,
stories are all really cool. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not this like, I feel like the women that are out there doing really well have way better stories than most guys do. Or it's just like, I was really big in high school, so I got into the trades. Like, okay.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the typical guy story. Like I had the tile chick on, and you know, she was had a professional atmosphere job and said fuck it, and redid it. Same with like our buildings. He's like, I'm not doing this shit. I gotta go build stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the good
Yeah.
stories. I
You
love
find a
them.
passion and run with it, man.
Yeah. That
Yep.
when I was all very rah at the beginning, I was all over like Gary Vanderchuck and like, you know, motivation, be an entrepreneur or whatever. And now looking back after that tidal wave is over and everything's kind of settled down, when he's having those conversations about like figure out what you're good at and just go tenfold in on one thing, that's taping, right? Or
Yeah.
you know, drywall or whatever you want to call it. Yeah,
Right.
if you find that thing you enjoy, you got to drown yourself in it.
Yep. And I'll tell you, that was the shittiest part for me, dude, is once I started getting decent,
Hmm.
once I started getting knowing that the work I put out, that when I came back to these houses after they were painted and the trim was up and I was looking around and I could nitpick a couple of things, but I knew I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't let it go to my head, but I obsessed with it.
Yep.
And it's all I wanted. I wanted that self gratification, not from anyone else, just for me. Because no one around here gives a goddamn about any of that. It was just for me.
Yeah.
And then it became one of those things where it's like, I want some more of it, and I want some more of it, and I'm going to take on this job and this job, and I'm going to stack, 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 stack. And before I know it, it's like shit, man. It's like 8:30 at night. I haven't been home. I haven't eaten supper yet. I've just been fucking taping.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
you can,
yeah.
right?
Oh, fuck yeah, you can.
Until you burn out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now come back when I've been doing this for a decade. That might be a different story.
Yeah, I mean that first year, about halfway through that first year, I had 5 jobs on the go. And it was like we were
Yeah,
waiting on this and waiting on that, and you know, like they all kind of like merged in on each other. But man, we had a couple of weeks where I was like bouncing around, and it got to be too much. Like you're putting in
yeah,
16-hour days. It was crazy.
yeah. Well, yeah. That's what we did when I started digging coal when I was 19 years old, and I did it all the way up until I was 28. And when I got out, when after I had my second kid, and I don't know what it was. I was young. Coal mining is another thing. In Illinois, coal mining was pretty huge, and it's still relatively big, but not like it was over the last 40 years. But I was the youngest guy in that mine. I was 400 feet underground, and I was the youngest
Jesus.
one by a long shot. Yeah, so I wanted to be the best at everything,
Yes.
and I got really good at operating machinery really fast, and my cuts were good. Everything was clean, and I was like, when I left that to start taping for myself, I'm like, that is exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm going to
That's
do it the
right.
same way. And I found out really fast, boy, that is not how it works when you're taping. Not one bit. Because I'm racing myself and that's it. I'm not the only one I got to impress
Yeah.
is myself. But
See, when you say coal mining, I think of like, what the hell is that movie with Ben Stiller? Well, he's the model.
oh, Zoolander,
Zoolander.
Zoolander. Yeah, we
That's
ain't down there with. pickaxes and
That's all
horses.
I was gonna say, like,
Yeah.
don't say it, and then I obviously said it. But so you got to be down there running machines, and then you've got like
Oh
carts and
yeah,
shit. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
There's
I think the last mine I worked at, we had like 180 miles of belt systems from where we were actively mining coal to get to the surface. I mean, it was
that's
something insane.
wild.
Yeah, it was like a 32-mile ride from the face of the coal mine to the surface. Maybe not quite that far, but boy,
Yeah,
it
you're
took about an hour and a half to get out. Yeah, it was wild. But you know what? I miss it every day, and I had a blast doing it. And if I could make a living doing it again, I would in a heartbeat. I don't know if I
that.
give up taping, but it'd come close.
How was the pay, if you don't mind me asking?
The pay was good, and I lived a very comfortable life. Let's put it this way: at 19, 20 years old, I was living a lot better than my friends that were in college.
For sure,
Yeah, it
for
wasn't
sure.
quite six figures, but it was close.
Yeah, I feel like six
But
figures isn't what
you
it used to be.
oh no, God no. You make 100 grand anymore. You're living comfortably, but you're not balling out.
No.
You know
I
what I
so
mean?
my original back when I like thought I was never going to make anything, I was like, I want to make six figures by the time I retire. I want to say that I did it. And once you get there, you kind of look around and you're like, this is not a lot of fucking money. Like,
Well, no,
th-
man. I mean,
now it's the
you
quarter million. That's the next one.
yeah,
That's the
you're spending $2,000 a month for I got like for me, I spend $2,000 a month to send my kids to daycare.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm working to send my kids to daycare so I can work, and you're spending 1,000 plus a month on groceries. I mean,
Yeah.
the cost of living it's so high and it's so ridiculous. But luckily, I have a boss that understands that, and he compensates us for what we do. So
That's good.
it's not, and he gives us a ton of freedom. If my kids are sick or I'm sick or I don't feel like it, I don't have to call him and say I'm not coming in today because it's
Yeah.
ultimately it's up to me and my partner to schedule out everything. Anyways, we just text one another and says, "Hey man, it's all on you today. I'm not coming."
Yeah. Figured out.
If I
Yeah.
want to go to if I want to go to North Dakota and I want to go do something for a week, I just go do it.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that like freedom after your ass is done puckering up that you don't have a job. And you know what I mean? Like when you're doing it on your own and you realize like there is work, everything's gonna be fine. Like once that hits, there's this like blanket of freedom where you're just like, I can
Yeah.
just do whatever the fuck I want whenever I want, as long as I do my job. And
Right.
I think more people, if people could just get, if you could take a sip of something that gave you that for 5 minutes, like the feeling that of that freedom.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody mouths off to me, I don't have to take that shit.
Nope.
I'll be like, great, I'll take a loss on this and feel
Yep.
free to have a good day. And that's it. And then they are gonna sit there and go, shit, that was the guy that was good. Now we got to get
Yeah.
one of these other idiots in here.
Well,
It's it,
you know how hard it is to find contractors right now. I'm sure up your way, it's just as bad as it is down here.
it's atrocious. Yeah.
And the work that's being put out that people are happy with, it blows my mind, man.
Yeah.
It really does. I did a basement job for a couple, and it was flood damage. So the entire basement, bottom 2 foot of the drywall was cut out.
Hmm.
And I said, like, well, you got a flooring guy or a trim guy, I can do this. I'm pretty good. This is my price, so on and so forth. After I laid the floors, the homeowner got mouthy and wasn't happy about something because I was bouncing multiple jobs. I said, you know what? We're going to call this a wash. Consider what I did free. I
Yeah.
don't want any money. I'm just going to walk off. This is not a good fit for me. And that was the best
Yeah.
part about being a homeowner.
Call that good karma and go fuck yourself, and then you leave.
And no kidding,
Okay,
man.
we got to be right back.